Hello everyone, Andrew here, and today I'm going to be talking about multicarts, and multicarts are actually one of my favorite things to collect. For those who don't know, multicarts are like any cartridge that has like more than one game built into it, and these are like games that were normally released separately, but then later, for whatever reason, they came out combined on one cartridge. So of course we have the super well-known and popular Mario Duck Hunt that you can find pretty much anywhere for like $2. And then, yeah, another one, Mario Duck Hunt with a world-class track meet on there. So those are examples of a few multicarts, but those are like official ones that were like actually licensed and released by Nintendo. The multicarts I like mainly are ones that like weren't licensed, and it just takes a whole ton of games and just shoves them onto one cart. Usually made by like who knows what company and who knows what country, and yeah. So those are actually things I really like collecting. Like a lot of them are for NES. I just really love collecting multicarts. Like here, we'll take a look at the first one here, just so you can see what I mean. This is an unofficial an unlicensed, unofficial NES multicart, and as you might be able to see in the top left there, or whatever corner that ends up being in the finished video, I guess it's top left. 76 in 1. So yeah, there's just tons of really weird multicarts like this out there. So it just takes a whole bunch of like NES games in this case. It's usually like the older NES games, so you get like Mario Brothers and a whole bunch of other older things on there too, and just combines them on one cart, and I just find them really neat to collect, because you have a whole bunch of different numbers, like 76 in 1, 110 in 1, it goes all the way up to some really crazy numbers, but we'll get to that later. But this is just an example of one of them. Has a really crazy picture on the front, I can't even tell you what that means. But yeah, overall, I really like collecting these things, just because I find they're really neat. Usually on the back of multicarts, if you look, you get a list of like all the things that are on there. One of the main reasons I like collecting multicarts is you really never know what's going to be on there. Sometimes, even though the names are on the back, you have some really weird named things, like the name that doesn't really correspond with like an NES game or any game ever really. These are usually done, like, the names are changed to avoid, like, copyright issues and things like that. But, I mean, you're making a multicart. You're already breaking the law. But, I mean, sometimes there's, like, some well-known things on there, so you get, like, Tetrises and things like that. But sometimes there's some things on there, some really weird names that catch my eye, and, like, they're games that were never really released, or they're kind of rare and things like that. So I like buying multicarts and kind of exploring the list and seeing what kind of games are actually on there. A lot of the time, you do just get a lot of those generic games, like the original Mario and things like that. But sometimes you do find some really cool games on them, as you'll see. So yeah, this is just your normal NES multi-cart. You can just go in there, completely unofficial. And yeah, so it has a few games on it. So you get like Pinball, Tetris, Super Mario, Pac-Man, the older things like that, like I said. But sometimes you will find some really cool stuff on it, and we'll get to that later. So yeah, that is 76 in 1. Moving on to the next NES multi-cart I want to show. This one is 110 in 1, and for some reason, the picture is upside down. I actually really like the custom cartridge cases that were made for these multicarts. I actually think that they're pretty well made. Overall, it's pretty neat. Again, if you look on the back, we have a sticker. I don't know why they don't place the sticker in the sticker spot. It's like, it's just one of those things I've never really understood. But yeah, like I said, I really like multicarts. I usually pick them up whenever I see them if they're at a good price. Like, sometimes you see crazy people trying to sell, like, it's 110 in 1, so they're going to charge $1 per game, so they're charging $110 for this. That's an absolutely bad deal, and it's completely not worth that. So, never pay prices like that if you see them. And I mean, some people might be wondering, like, why I bother with multicarts, considering, I mean, I already have 648 NES games. There's a good chance I have every single game on here. But like I said, you never know what kind of games you're going to find on them. And overall, I think that they're just really neat items to have in my collection. I mean, no matter what other people might think, and just, I don't know, I just really like collecting them. I think that they're really neat things to have. So anyway, there's 110 in 1. This one, it's pretty much the same. So you have like 76 in 1. And now you have 110 in 1. So a few more games on there. Although once you start getting up there and like the higher numbers of multi-carts, sometimes the carts actually just have like duplicate games on them. So you'll find like Super Mario Brothers, and then you'll find it under another crazy name. Like, that's what I mean by some of the names are changed too. So yeah, a lot of times if it's like a multi-cart for that has like a really high number of games, it's a good chance that it's too good to be true, and you're actually gonna get like a multi-cart with like the same 10 games repeating like a billion times. Anyway, yeah, there's 110 in 1. Moving on to my next NES multi-cart, and this is a good one. here is my 190-1. You can even see on the end there, this one actually has a sticker that says 190-1. I actually really like this multi-cart. The sticker is actually in the right place this time, although the print is so small that you can barely read it, because there's 191 games. The funny part is that the first 100 games are all different. Then after the first 100, it's just the same games repeated. I guess they took 10 out for some reason. But it's just the same games repeated again, but with the word super added to the beginning. So I mean, that's what I mean when multi-carts really start getting up there in the numbers. It's a good chance that all of the games on it aren't different. The interesting thing is, though, is that even though like the word super is added onto it, the cool thing is that when you start playing the game that has, if you play the super version of it, before you start playing, it gives you an option to choose what level you start from and how many lives to start with. So I actually think that's a pretty neat feature, because, I mean, if you're playing a game, some of them don't necessarily have save features and password features and things like that. So, like, if you can't do it all in one sitting, you can just choose whatever level to start to, whatever level you want to start at. So, like, continue where you stopped playing from, and just give yourself as many lives as you want, if you want to make it easier. So I actually think that's really neat. And that's just one of the really cool things about multi-carts that I like. I mean, I guess you could probably use Game Genie to do a thing like that with the normal game, but Game Genie bends all the pins in your NES, so no one likes it. But, I mean, that's just one of the cool things about multi-carts I really like. And the cool thing about this one, I guess I should show the front again, too, is that on this game, this multi-cart, I actually found the game that I'd never heard of before, because it was only released in Japan. So that's another thing. Sometimes on multi-carts, you'll find games that weren't even released in North America, so that's another reason to keep an eye out for them, because they're pretty cool. And it's called Maui-kun, and it's a really, really awesome puzzle game that was only released for the Famicom, and I found it on this multi-cart. I had never heard of it before. I played it, and then next thing I know, within like a week, I'd beat it, because it was just an awesome game. So if it wasn't for this multi-cart, I probably never would have heard of it or found it, so I was really happy about that. And it became one of my favorite NES/Famicom games, really. It is just awesome. I actually don't have the real copy of it, so that's another reason it's really good to have this multi-cart. I mean, I, of course, really like to have the real copies. I mean, when I say I have 648 NES games, that doesn't include, like, games on multi-carts, obviously. I did find it for 40 bucks once, but I think it's too high. I mean, the place that's selling it has had it for like 2 years, and they still haven't sold it. So clearly I'm the only person who thinks that 40 bucks isn't too much. But anyway, Maui-kun, it's a really cool game for Famicom, and check it out if you ever get the chance. It's just a neat little puzzle thing, and it has awesome music too. Anyway, let's see here. Next thing we have is Entertainment Computer System, which you probably can't read. This is the last of my NES multi-carts. If we turn this one over, we see that it actually says 370 in one. I don't know why they put how many are in it on the back this time instead of like a list of the games. But this one's pretty much just more of the same. Like more old NES games, and since the number's getting really high up there, a lot of games do repeat. And sometimes you'll find hacks and things like that on them too. Like you'll find like Air Mario, where like you instead of it's just normal Super Mario Brothers 1, but you like swim in levels that aren't swimming levels. So pretty neat things like that you sometimes find on multi-carts like this, and that's another reason why I like going for them. I mean, just never know what you're gonna find on them. So if I can find them for cheap, I always pick them up. If it's one I don't already have. So anyway, that is the end of my NES multi-carts. I actually have a lot for Famicom, so we're not out of the 8-bit zone yet. So here is the next set I want to show you from the Famicom. This one, I actually played a game off of this multi-cart for a random game of the day. I don't remember what number it was. I want to say, like, 13. Whatever. Anyway, this one is 8 in 1. So I mean, you might think, why do you bother collecting the ones that, like, really low ones? Because I mean, the ones with the really low numbers are actually the ones that I find are more likely to have some of the really neat games on them. For instance, if you probably can't see the picture, but you might see right there Sonic and Knuckles, because this game, this multi-cart claims to have a game on it called Sonic 5, and to people who've been watching my videos for a while now, that probably sounds familiar, because I played the Sonic 5 pirate game for one of my random games of the day, and I actually got this on this multi-cart. And I love pirate games like that. The Sonic 5 pirate, hacks, things like that, I love. And you actually do find them on multi-carts from time to time. So that's why I picked this up, just because of Sonic. I was actually also hoping it had the Super Mario World NES pirate on there too. Which is something I've always really wanted, but it didn't. But it had the Sonic 5 pirate, which is something I've always wanted to play. So I was really happy to get that. And yeah, overall, that's what made this multi-cart worth it for me. I mean, I think I paid like $5 for this thing, so it was completely worth it. And yeah, and there's other games on it too. It's like you have normal Mario and stuff on it, but it's completely worth it just for the Sonic 5 pirate game. That is a super bizarre game. It sucks, but I've always wanted to try it, and now I wish I never had. But anyway, still very, very cool. Next, 52-in-1 Famicom game. Again, more of the same, really. I mean, you have like your Mario on it, Dig Dug. 1942 is another one that's usually on there. So that's just another generic multi-cart. And then we have 110-in-1, and this is actually exactly the same as the 110-in-1 NES multi-cart, except this is the Famicom version. And they actually put the sticker in the right place, because I guess there's not really anywhere else to put it. But yeah, so there's that. And then, yeah, moving on to some more Famicom stuff. This is what I was talking about when, if a number's really up there, it's likely too good to be true. So like even 370, some games start to repeat. Just imagine how much games are going to repeat in, I don't even know how many nines that is. I didn't really count. It's like 9,999,999 games in one. Yeah, right. It's actually the same. I don't even remember how many games it is. It shows 6 on the front. Although the interesting thing is that it's actually just a whole bunch of events from, darn, what game is it again? It's an NES game, and it has like a whole bunch of different, I want to say track and field, but I know it's not track and field. I can't remember at the moment, but it actually just takes a whole bunch of different events from that game and breaks them into different games. But still, it only adds up to like 6 different things, and then it just repeats a billion times, and it's crazy. So yeah, I mean, the only really good thing on here is like Super Mario Brothers 1, and then you just get a whole bunch of other garbage and stuff on there too. So I mean, yeah, if you ever see a multi-cart like that, it's not really that great, but I still think it's neat to have it in my collection, just to say I have a game that says it has that many games on it. But even better than 9,900,000 and whatever is 10,000,001, yeah! And the funniest part is that this is exactly the same as the last game, except it claims to have one more game, which is just a repeat of the other games, so yeah. Again, just has Mario on it. It says it has Tetris on it, but it's really some other weird puzzle game, a lot like Columns for Sega. Pretty sure it's a pirate game, so that's actually a pretty neat thing to have on this cart. But overall, nothing too special, and there's other multi-carts out there, which are 10 times better. Almost done with NES. These two, I actually bought these two from a guy, actually, I guess it's been about a year now. I think I bought them last summer. And these are really cool. These were actually part of a big multi-cart set. There was like 6 carts in the set. And the guy wanted like $10 each, and I wasn't going to pay that, because a lot of them were just like 110-in-1, and things I already had. But these two caught my eye. Here we have a 4-in-1 game, which claims to have a whole bunch of different Mario games on it. And here we have a 4-in-1 game, which claims to have a whole bunch of different Pokemon games on it. And what these are like crazy graphic hacks of different NES games to have like Mario added into them and Pokemon added into them. And there's a few pirate games on here too, which actually like weren't released games at all. They're just things that people made, and for some reason they made Mario a character in it, and then they released it. So you have like Mario 10, Super Mario 14, Super Mario 9, and Super Mario 16. I know, everyone's favorite Mario games, right? These games are actually hilarious. They're just like butcher Mario's graphic into the game. They're just terrible. I'll probably actually play this someday, just to show people how funny it is. But overall, it's really hilarious. And the same thing with Pokemon 4-in-1. I mean, you get like Little Nemo with like a sand shrew Pokemon graphic added in the place of Nemo. Like, I don't understand why anyone would want to do that. But overall, it's just really bizarre, and I just think they're really neat things to have in my collection. So those are more multi-carts right there. And yeah, you might be wondering, how is this an NES multi-cart? Well, I mean, it has like a cover on the bottom, or a Famicom, so yeah. Well, I mean, it plays in your NES if you use the adapter. But yeah, anyway, those things are just really crazy, so I picked them up, and I have no regrets, because they are actually pretty cool. I almost dropped it there. Anyway, moving on, we're almost done with the NES. I mean, NES has more multi-carts than, like, anything ever, so that's why I'm going on about them for so long. But anyway, I'm almost out of breath. These two multi-carts are interesting. They actually work with computers. I should be showing this one first. This is a 48-in-1. It actually only works in a computer I have that plays NES games, although it was tangled up with a whole bunch of other things, so I couldn't get it out at the moment. But 48-in-1, it actually has some cool things on it, like a G-Basic, so you can like program on it. It has Minesweeper on it. It's actually really neat. So, I mean, it's not really a Famicom multi-cart because, I mean, you could probably play it on your Famicom if you had the Famicom keyboard, but I mean, you can't really play it with the NES adapter since there's no NES keyboard to use with it. But overall, that's pretty neat. And then I have this one. And when you look at this, the first thing you're probably thinking is that it's a Nintendo 64 game. The second thing you're probably thinking is that it has something to do with Pokemon. If you think either of those things, you're actually completely wrong. This is an NES multi-cart, and it doesn't have anything to do with Pokemon on it. This multi-cart is actually really cool, because it has Contra on it, and Contra is actually a pretty hard game to find on multi-carts. So that actually makes it pretty good. And another thing on it is that it actually has Super Mario Bros. 1 on it, but with the twist that as soon as you start the game, you can start from any world you want. And not just up to 8. I mean, you can go right past 8, go to 9. You can just start going to complete glitch worlds. And it's actually really fun to see just how glitched up some of those worlds are past 9. I mean, they're not even represented by numbers because it just, like, overflows into, like, garbage graphics. The numbers replaced like that. Like in Super Mario Bros. 1, if you've ever got more than 9 lives, the numbers kind of start to glitch out. That's pretty much what happens with the worlds. And there's just some really crazy things on there. And it's overall a lot of fun to play. And I think I'll do a random game of the day on that sometime too, because it is just a lot of fun. Yeah, anyway, last thing I'm going to show for Famicom, and this is actually probably my favorite multi-cart just because of how weird it is. And it is a 4-in-1, and I mean, what's so good about it? The cool thing is that this game, unlike all the other multi-carts where you turn it on and you sort of have a menu that you go down to select what game you want to play, this one has switches built into the front. And depending on where the switches are, what combination of like left and right you have, that determines which of the 4 games you'll play. And I think that is just so neat. Because, I mean, everything else has a menu, and then this one you get switches, so like if both of them are to the left, you might get Super Mario Brothers. If you have the left switch to the left and the right switch to the right, then you might get like Twin B, which is one of the games on here or something like that. But overall, I just think that's so neat to have a multi-cart like that. And this one's a lot heavier than the other ones too, just because I guess of how much extra like circuit boards and stuff like that are probably in there. Because most of the time, multi-carts are really light. Like, I guess there's not too much in there. They're made pretty cheaply, but this one's actually really cool, and it even has a cool warning on the back, too. Just like an official Famicom game, which a lot of multi-carts don't have. I mean, overall, I just think that is super neat, and that is my favorite multi-cart, just because of the fact that it has those cool switches on it. I'm going to take a quick drink. I've been doing a lot of talking in the last... Ooh, it's already been like 18 minutes. Cool. Alright, we're almost there. That's the majority of my multi-carts. Like I said, the majority of them are for NES and Famicom. So it's going to get pretty quick from here. The next one I have to show is a Super Nintendo 4-in-1, which I actually have in this neat blue case it came with. I doubt it actually came with that originally, but when I bought it, it came with it, so I just keep it in there. Nintendo 4X1, 4-in-1. The interesting thing is that it says Super Nintendo. Meanwhile, it's in a Super Famicom cartridge, and even the back has a Super Famicom like sticker on it. It's in Japanese. And this has Super Mario World, Gradius 3, Smash TV, and Super Tennis on it, which is pretty neat. And it's the only Super Nintendo multi-cart I've actually seen, so I had to grab it. Pretty cool. I mean, none of the games on there are really great. Super Mario World doesn't save, but still. I love to have multi-carts like this. And I just thought it was really neat, too, that it said Super Nintendo, even though it was a Super Famicom cartridge. So I picked up that. Now, moving away Nintendo quickly, this is the only one of 2 multi-carts I have that actually aren't for Nintendo consoles. I don't know why everyone makes multi-carts for Nintendo. But the interesting thing is, this is Sega Genesis 7-in-1, and it comes with a few games. You know, you have like the Flintstones, Columns, Tiny Toons. But the interesting thing about this is that it actually comes with Tetris, and I think that Tetris is actually a pretty rare Genesis game, so I don't know if it means anything that this multi-cart actually has Tetris on it, but overall, it's pretty neat. The case that it came with is actually really nice on the outside. If I can ever get it open. Didn't sound good, but anyway, it came out. So yeah, basically it shows the Flintstones mainly for some reason, but then you have a whole list of games down there. The interesting thing about this multi-cart is that when you turn it on, it always starts with the Flintstones. but then you kind of select through your games by pressing the reset button, and every time a different game will come up. But yeah, that's a pretty neat multi-cart, and it's the, I actually did see another multi-cart for Sega once. I don't know why I didn't pick it up, there was some reason. But anyway, it didn't come in a nice case and everything like this, so I think this is just really neat to have in this really nice case. And it's cool that it does have Tetris on it, because I guess a lot of people probably haven't played Genesis Tetris, and I guess even though it's on a multi-cart, it's still really cool to have, so I'm happy about that. The next game, going back to Nintendo, is a Game Boy multi-cart. I actually have like 5 Game Boy multi-carts. Although anyone who has seen a tour of my room might have noticed I sort of have this really neat Game Boy display thing on the wall that you can put like 16 Game Boy games in. It's kind of like a square, and you can put like 4x4 Game Boy games into it. But the problem is, once you put them in there, it's like never count on getting them back out, because there's like nowhere to grip onto them to pull them out of this display case. So I mean, 4 of my multi-carts in there, so I wasn't going to get them out. But this one is the most interesting of my Game Boy multi-carts anyway. It's a 12-in-1 game. And the interesting thing is that this multi-cart doesn't have a menu either. You switch through the games, while you put it in, you turn it on, and game number 1, which is Battle City, will always come up. Then after that, you switch through the games by pressing this button, which acts as like a kind of reset button. So it resets the Game Boy, and then after it's done resetting, the next game on the list will come up. So that's how you go through the games. The dumb part is that they put what is probably the best game. I mean, they put Super Mario Land as game number 12. So, I mean, that's obviously a game that everyone is going to want to play. So, every time you want to play it, you put it in your Game Boy, and you're pressing the button, waiting for it to reset for like 3 minutes before you finally get to play Mario Land. But anyway, I think that's really neat, and just overall, things like that button, the switches on the front of the NES, the Famicom 4-in-1 with Mario on the front, overall, I think that those things are really neat. But anyway, last 2 multi-carts to go. Yeah. Let's see, this one here is actually really interesting. This one is a Game Boy Advance multi-cart, 148-in-1. And it's a high number, but it actually does have 148 weird games. And oh god, 116 is Spelunker. Get away from me now. But anyway, the interesting thing about this multi-cart is it shows 4 Game Boy Advance games on the front there. All 4 of those are actually on this multi-cart. So it's not like a lot of multi-carts where it might show a game on the front, and then those that game actually isn't on the multi-cart anywhere at all. That's one thing you do have to be careful of. Even if it says it has, like, I want to say Super Mario, but every multi-cart in existence has Mario on it. If a game says it has, like, a multi-cart says it has, like, I don't know, what's a really rare game? It has, like, Final Fantasy on it or something. There's a good chance it probably doesn't. So, before you dish out a lot of money for multi-carts, which I wouldn't recommend anyway, try it to make sure what you think is on it is actually on it. But anyway, it does actually have these 4 Game Boy Advance games on it, but if you read the list on the back, which I know is not going to show up, all the other games are actually NES games. So the coolest part about this is that you can actually have all of these NES games on the go. I mean, just looking at the list, Mega Man 1, 2, 3, Final Fantasy 2, Super Mario Brothers, of course, Pac-Man, Tetris, Spelunker, Bomberman. It's a whole bunch of really cool NES games, and you can take them anywhere on your Game Boy Advance if you have this multi-cart. That's actually really neat. And I went on a cruise to the Caribbean a few years ago, and they actually had a ton of Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS multi-carts for sale. And they wanted like 40 bucks a piece for them. They were charging like actual game prices for them, so I wasn't going to buy any of them. They all came, and actually pretty well done boxes and stuff like that. But yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things like that, and they also had a whole bunch of a whole ton of fake games for sale too. They had Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, but you could just look at the case and tell it was completely fake, and it was like printed off the computer. But yeah, there actually are a lot of fake things out there in the Caribbean. Well, I'm not going to bash the Caribbean too much, because I did get one of my best video game deals in history there, and that was when I picked up 30 sealed Super Nintendo games and 10 Super Famicom games for $64 from this one electronics store that found them in the back, and they had absolutely no idea what they were worth, and that was like one of the best days ever. Yeah, when I go on vacation, I don't even relax. I just use that time to look for more video games. But anyway, that was awesome, and it was a great day. But that has nothing to do with multi-carts. There is one more multi-cart I want to show, and this one is probably one of my weirdest multi-carts of all. I never usually get multi-carts to kind of like replace actually having a game. I just get multi-carts because I think it's cool to have, even though I have all of the games that are on it already. Although the one exception is my Neo Geo multi-cart. I mean, this has 161 games in one. it's kind of a lie, since some of the games are kind of just like the super versions. Remember back to 191? When it was just like the super version of games, so it was like the same game. So it really has about half one of 161. So it has like 80 games on it. The bad thing about Neo Geo multicarts, or even like any multicart in general, is that multicart lessens demand for the actual game. So I mean, it makes the value of real games go down. I mean, that's good for people who are looking to buy them, but I mean, it's bad for people like me who might have already collected it. And then you have all these multicarts out there making the value of what you might have paid a lot for go down. And I mean, some Neo Geo games are just really hard to find, or they're really expensive, and I mean, it's really convenient to just have this multicart in my MVS 4-slot at all times. So I mean, it's really good. It's convenient to have this, but overall, I mean, I know that some people are really against them and they claim they wreck your machines and stuff like that. But yeah, this is the last multicart I have. So there's a lot of cool Neo Geo games on that. So that's why I picked it up. It's like $100. I think I ended up paying like 64 secondhand from someone. But overall, it's worth it to have all those Neo Geo games. And just be able to put that one card in, and then be able to switch through all your games as much as you want. But like I said, I never usually buy multicarts as a way to like replace actually owning it. So if I ever saw a Neo Geo game that I really wanted and I didn't have it like separately, not in the multicart, I would definitely buy it. Like, there's a whole bunch of Metal Slug games I'm still looking for and stuff like that, even though they're on the cart. But yeah, anyway, I believe that's it. I believe I've talked about every single multi-cart I have, except for one, which is in a box that is behind a massive mess, and I don't feel like cleaning that up right now. But I'll get to it someday, and it's actually packaged in with a fake console. I'm going to do a video about them someday, so I'll show the multi-cart someday too. The cool thing about that one is that it actually has 4 decent games on it. One of them is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters for NES, and the other one is Samurai Pizza Cats, which is a hilariously decent game. And Matthew's going to laugh at that. But anyway, yeah, I think that's it for me talking about multi-carts. I think they're really cool, and I pick them up if I can find them for good prices. So yeah. Well, that's it. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you ever see multi-carts for good prices out there, pick them up. They're pretty neat, especially if there's any chance of them having some really cool game on it that was never really released. Never pay $1 per game, like a multi-cart, like if it says like 110 in one. Never pay 110 bucks for that. I mean, if it's like 4 in one, go for it. Pay $4 for it. It's probably worth it. But yeah, never pay ridiculous prices for fake multi-carts and things like that. Yeah, anyway, I believe that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you then.